Welcome back to another episode of Shit I'm 30 with me, your host, Carla Wilmaris. And I wanted to announce today a new venture that I'm taking my self-employed business venture life on. I guess that's a good way to say it. I've been sitting here working hours on end, sending emails to guests, potential sponsors, making and remaking my media kits, working on my website. Well, that still needs a little work, but we won't talk about that right now. But my DMs lately and emails are flooded with people asking me questions about podcasting, how I edit, what equipment I use, how do I get the show on iTunes, how did I decide to name my podcast, who did my artwork. It's overwhelming, guys. It's a lot. And I usually answer as much as I can, but I decided that I studied the art of podcasting like my life depends on it. And that's because, one, it does. And two, I love it so much. My life depended on me going to work every day, 9 a.m. to make sure that I fed my daughter, the bills were paid. But I was leaving behind like my soul, my happiness. I couldn't love on my kid after work. I was exhausted and miserable. It was like I was doing all this accounting work, and then I didn't realize that I was just leaving myself behind, my happiness behind. I was good with money. I've always been great with numbers, but the career path I took wasn't it. I was good with this, but it wasn't what I was great at. That's a good way to put it. So now that podcast is the next big thing, technology keeps evolving, and a lot of people don't realize that they need to keep evolving as well. We can't stay back what happened in the 1960s, the 90s, even in the 2000s. Like, things have changed big time. I've been a podcast junkie since about 2013 and got hooked big time when the first season of Serial came out. And no, I'm not talking about Frosted Flakes or Fruit Loops. I'm talking about Serial, the show, the podcast. It's SERIAL, like serial killer. If you haven't listened to that show, go download it or go on podcast, wherever you listen to it, and listen to it. It's so good. It's addicting. The first season really, really got me hooked. Anyways, I've seen the growth of podcasts myself since then, but since I've been studying podcasts for like breakfast, lunch, and dinner, well, I also ate breakfast, lunch, and dinner, probably a few snacks in between that I shouldn't have. I came across an article that talked about Steve Jobs, and it says how the potential in podcasts, like how he saw the potential in podcasts. Yeah, and I'm talking about Steve Jobs, the guy who's probably partying up with Michael Jackson and like Rick James or something. I don't know why I put those together, but I figured that they would probably party in the afterlife. I don't know. Anyways, Steve Jobs, who passed away in 2011, but in 2005, he introduced podcasts to iTunes because he saw the future in podcasting. And I'm thinking in 2005, that's when I graduated high school. That's when I gave birth to my daughter. I wasn't worried in any way, shape, or form about what the hell was going on with podcasts. I didn't even know podcasts existed back then. And now we're in 2018. We're talking about 13 years later? Yeah, that's how old Diana is. Anywho, it's been 13 years since it was introduced to iTunes. And really, when you think about it, it's not that long ago. Like 13 years is not that long. I realized I love to listen to them. And then I realized that it was just my passion once I really got into it and I started doing it. At first, I'm like, okay, it's something different. It's something I really like to do. I like to talk shit. But it was my passion, speaking my thoughts, encouraging others to pursue their passions. And of course, doing a little shit talk. I love talking shit, That's what I've been loving. So many of us don't have the time to learn how to start a podcast from scratch, what a media host is, what a web host is, what an RSS feed is, et cetera, et cetera. When I first started and I read all of this, I was like, okay, yeah, I think I'm going to have to keep listening to podcasts because this shit ain't for me. I don't even know. All I know is how to click, save, start a new document, and Google shit. That's all I know how to do. Well, when I started, like many of you guys, I had no one to turn to. I watched endless videos on YouTube, read as many articles and blogs as I can find, paid for online classes. But there was one thing that I know for a fact helped me then and until this day I'm absolutely grateful for. And that's having a friend and a person I can speak to and bounce ideas from. I have my friend Mandy from the Horrible Decisions podcast, whom I told about my show once I had all my ducks in a row and got it all together. I learned and taught myself everything for about 6 months. Then I was able to speak to her about challenges and different ways to grow my show. Without the support of a friend or a person that I can talk to specifically about my own show, I don't know if I would be where I am today. And that is the honest to God truth. You can read and go to webinars, but without having a one-on-one with someone who's already done it, I don't think I could have done this. I got lucky and I had Mandy. Creative minds think differently. If you're in a city that podcasts aren't everything, like New York City, you're screwed. I'm in Orlando. I have this huge challenge living in Orlando. Not only is podcasting new, not everyone knows about podcasts like they know about AM, FM radio. So when I tell people, I have a podcast, they're like, oh, what is that? And I'm just like, it's a radio show basically, but it's not on the radio. So you can listen to it whenever you want. I told my grandma the other day tried to explain to her what a podcast, and she's like, yeah, I saw you. This is where in her Spanish. She's like, yeah, I saw you, and you're doing something with singing, right? And I said, singing? What? That's a what? And she's like, yeah, you were on stage with the microphone. I said, I sent you the video so you would. Did you see me singing? So she thought that I was a singer of some sort. Now I know for a fact she's heard me sing, and I'm fucking terrible. So why she thought that, I don't know. But people don't know what podcasting is, or maybe they've heard of a podcast, they know it's a show, but don't know how to get to it. So I had a huge challenge here in Orlando, outside of big cities like New York and LA and London, where they're huge with podcasting, maybe Dallas. I had to not only teach my audience through social media, through meeting, through networking, what a podcast was and how to get to it, but then I had to also create the content. And that was just all overwhelming. And sometimes it feels like it's impossible for me to actually get my stuff out there, for me to get any listeners, because I'm like, who's going to listen? Yeah, I don't know what the fuck this is. But people catch on quick. And when you have good content, when people like you, when you're authentic, they will listen. But there is a lot of back work that you have to do. It's not easy. It's tiring. If you're working at 9 to 5 like I was, you're going to spend a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of early mornings. I would wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning. If I wasn't to go work out, I'll wake up at 5 and upload episodes or edit some, go to work, fuck off at work a little bit, and do more work there, come home, cook dinner for Ayana, and stay up till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning, and do it all over again the next day. But the difference was when I was doing it in the morning before work and I was doing it after work, I loved what I was doing. So anyways, I decided that I would introduce one-on-one consultations with me to brainstorm your podcast. It can be one that you just started, or we can speak on how to elevate your current podcast to the next level. I went live today to speak about this on my Instagram. If you haven't already been following me on Instagram, it's at Carla Wilmaris. Basically, I love going on there, talking about what I'm doing the other day, going live, showing behind the scenes of what I'm doing with the show, my everyday living, just like my show is. I talk about everything on there. You're occasionally going to find me pooping. If you know me, I like for everyone to celebrate those great moments with me because they don't happen often. So if you catch a couple poop pictures, send me some congratulations, clap with me, send me yours. Let me know you doing all right at home. I'm doing all right over here, because it gets stressful sometimes when it's been a couple of days. Anyways, in these one-on-one consultations, I will brainstorm with you the ideas that you currently have. We'll talk and identify what it is that you really want to do in the direction that you want to take your podcast. Discover what's holding you back from taking that leap. It could be something as simple as the fear or doubting yourself, and I could just be like, that's a good idea. Just fucking do it. Stop doubting yourself so much. I'll explain to you the process of starting a podcast from step 1, which includes what it is that you need to do to start your podcast, basically from the beginning stages of brainstorming to the execution and releasing your first show. We'll have a Q&A, so just come prepared with all the questions you have for me to answer. Another special part of this one-on-one that I want to speak is towards bloggers. I started this podcast, as many of you guys know if you've been listening from the beginning, as a blog, but I quickly realized that I needed to talk and I needed to get my fucks out and my shits out. And anyways, you guys get the point. I needed to speak more than write. Now, don't get me wrong. I still love to write down my thoughts, but for me, podcasting was my thing. There are so many bloggers that can add podcasting to their blogs and their website. If that is you or someone you know, seriously, email me today. I'll brainstorm with you how to get a podcast to supplement your blog. If you already have an audience, it's so much easier coming from there, because they don't only read and see what you're doing and they follow up with you, but now you can talk to them and they can, while they're driving, they're listening to you and they're like, oh, maybe she can read the blog to me. They don't have to be an hour long like some of mine are. They can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is. Maybe you can do an audio version of your blog for blind people. There's so many different ways to do podcasting. It can be anything. You don't have to just saturate the market with what's already out there. You can do your own thing, your own unique content. Anywho, more things to expect from this one-on-one. I'm going to share with you my pitch template for sponsors and guests. I remember I asked a bunch of my blogger friends for templates and how they pitch to sponsors, but I started to quickly realize that those templates just didn't work with podcasting. It is so different. So I will share both of those templates as well as give you the information that I currently have on my media kit, which I share with potential sponsors. All of this is key to a successful podcast. How do I know this? Well, 1, I've done my research. 2, I've implemented it. 3, I'm doing it. And 4, when you think about it, you want to talk to, let's say, a Gary Vee or a Pat Flynn or, someone who has 1 million downloads a month. It would be great to take one of their classes, but are you going to sit there for a one-on-one with them? Some of them offer it and you might get lucky and get one, but how many hundreds of dollars are you going to spend on that? I feel like I'm someone that you can speak to who's now 100% submerged into this and you can just brainstorm with someone. So what I'm providing to you is 60 minutes of you being able to go into my brain and brainstorm with me. And keep in mind, I have now, yes, submerged 100% into podcasting, but my business degree, my accounting degree, the fact that I opened up, a very successful business with my father and we did all the marketing through that ourselves, that all is in my brain and we can talk about it, in an hour together. So I can be that friend for you that you might not have because some of your friends, frankly, might be a cop or a teacher or, we all have different careers and a lot of them aren't into the creative field. There's very few of us. So I'll be providing that for you. I remember back to my first episode, I had maybe 100, maybe 150 downloads. And I was like, oh, this is cool. I wasn't really focusing on my downloads. I listen a lot to Gary Vee and he's just like, just put the content out there, forget what everyone's telling you, stop stressing about what people are saying, just be yourself, be authentic, put the content out, stop holding back, stop being scared. So that's what I was doing for a long time. And I'm just putting out content. And all of a sudden I started seeing those numbers shoot up and I'm like, oh, they're going up. They're here. They're there. Then when I first lost my co-host is when I reached the top charts and I was like, well, holy shit, it's a big difference from just 100 downloads per episode. Before I knew it, I had no idea I had hit over 10,000 downloads a month. And I'm like, oh, well, this is cool. People are listening. And this is all because I was doing what I wanted to do, what felt good for me. I wasn't necessarily trying to find out what everyone wanted because I can't please everyone. So basically, I need to find a tribe of people that like me for me and enjoy the content that I'm on. I can't please everybody. I just can't. I'm sorry. So whoever doesn't like it can go somewhere else. Whoever does like it, clearly they're staying. And I have amazing supporters and listeners. Outside of the consultation, I wanted to also let you guys know that I'll be editing audio for podcasts. So I use my professional equipment to edit the work. I'll add intros, outros, ads. So like for myself, sometimes I'll record the episode with my guests and then I'll later on do my Audible or my law firm ads or, whatever ads I have, I'll do them separate and then add them on to the show and make it one long show together that blends in. And that's what I upload as my episode. I'll also take away, unwanted parts. So if you said something that you weren't supposed to say, I'll add bleeps. I'll take out long pauses, microphone pops. I'll do the ID3 tagging, which if you haven't even thought about or know what you're doing before you do a podcast, you don't know what that is. But I'll explain it to you and I'll do the ID3 tagging for you. I'll normalize the podcast so you have consistent volume levels. So if you have someone who speaks lower than the next, like me, I'm loud as hell. Sometimes I have people that I record with that are very low. So if the microphone wasn't too high, I can normalize those levels through editing. So basically, I'll give you and deliver to you a fully produced episode, no matter where you're from. So you can be in Canada and South America and Afghanistan and China and South Africa. If you want me to do a podcast editing for you, we have the internet. So you email it to me and I email it right back to you. So I'll be also taking management of podcasts. So basically, if you want to you're like, I just want to record and that's it. Once I'm done recording, I don't want to do anything else. I want it to be on iTunes and everywhere else. Well, I'll be doing that for you as well. So if that's what you want to do and you don't have time to do all of the back work, which is what I do here with the editing and uploading of all the stuff. You tell me, hey, this is what I want from you. I'm going to record. You send me your audio. I'll put your audio together, upload it, and manage all of the back end of your podcast. That way you don't have to spend so many hours, but you have your podcast and your content going out, and you can keep doing whatever it is that you do during the day. If this is not your full-time thing, but it's something that you still want to do, and later on make it your full-time job or whatever it is. So this is great for anyone looking to start a podcast, or if you already have a podcast going, to either take some time out of your hands, or you want to brainstorm with a friend what is next and maybe learn a few new tips that you didn't think of before. You can reach me to schedule a one-on-one by emailing me at shitim30podcast@gmail.com. If you also want to do the management or you want to do the editing, email me there, shitim30podcast@gmail.com. And also, if you want to advertise on the show, also email me and I'll send you over my media kit with rates and more information on the podcast, like the demographic of who listens to me, some top cities, and what you'll be getting from me, and actually the core of the show. I hope you guys have an amazing day. I hope you enjoyed this episode on what is new for me and the new adventure and my hustle, because honestly, my hustle doesn't stop. I'm in here all day, every day, and I like it. I love it. It feels good, and I'll stay here until I can get to the next level, and I'm going to keep building onto this podcast. I want you guys to turn on your notifications on Instagram if you follow me, or on Twitter or on Facebook, and definitely where you subscribe so you can see when new episodes come up. I'm recording in a few days with a 32-year-old virgin that was addicted to porn for 10 years. Yeah. You heard that right. 32, never had any dangling. She's a female. So I cannot wait to sit down with her and get you guys her story so you can listen to it. It's going to be amazing. Anywho, I'll talk to you guys next time. Wait up. And don't forget to rate, subscribe, and review. Your review might be the next one I read with a shout out on here on the podcast as well as my social media. Bye, guys.